155 aircraft, thousands of military personnel, all for one man, one colonel stranded on a mountainside in Iran. And you know what? That might be the least suspicious part of this story. Welcome back. This is Andrew Meatrich, and today we have a lot to unpack. The Pentagon is hemorrhaging generals, while an ultimatum clock is ticking toward what could be the most consequential military escalation in decades. Britain just told Washington it will not play along with strikes on civilian targets. The head of the largest bank in America is warning investors that cheap oil and cheap credit are gone, possibly for good. Plus, a defense budget request that is bigger than the entire economy of Spain. And I promise you, the most interesting part is coming at the very end. Now look, if you find this kind of analysis valuable, I would genuinely appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe. We spend hours every single day researching, cross-checking facts, making sure you get the real picture and not some recycled headline. If you want to go a step further, consider sponsoring the channel or using super thanks. It directly helps us keep doing this work independently. And please stick around until the end, because what the head of JPMorgan just said should concern every single person watching this. Let us start with what might be the most revealing story of the week. An F-15 was shot down deep inside Iranian territory in mountainous terrain. Both crew members ejected safely and landed on Iranian soil. The first pilot was located quickly, but the colonel responsible for weapon systems ended up far from the landing zone, injured, climbing to 7,000 feet in rough mountain conditions. He treated his own wounds and managed to establish radio contact. And here is where the scale of the response starts to raise questions. To retrieve this one man, the military launched 155 aircraft. That is 4 bombers, 64 fighter jets, 48 aerial refueling tankers. They created 7 decoy search zones to confuse Iranian defenses. But wait, that is not all. The operation came at a significant cost. A ground attack aircraft was shot down, 2 transport planes got stuck on a dirt airstrip and had to be destroyed, several small helicopters were lost, and 2 Black Hawks sustained serious damage. You think that sounds like a rescue mission? Because a lot of analysts are looking at this and saying maybe, just maybe, that was the opening move of something much larger. The aircraft went deep into Iranian territory, into mountainous regions that happened to be near facilities connected to enriched uranium. The Iranians themselves are calling this their version of a famous failed invasion, drawing parallels to one of the most embarrassing military operations in American history. But here is the part nobody is talking about. While this massive operation was unfolding, the administration has been systematically clearing out the senior command structure at the Pentagon. And now, you know what? There are more vacant general officer positions than filled ones. Think about that for a second. You are on the brink of what could be a major military confrontation, and the people who actually know how to run large-scale operations have been shown the door. This is where it gets really important. The ultimatum to Iran expires Tuesday at 8 in the evening, Eastern Time. The administration laid it out plainly during a press conference at the White House, claiming the capability to destroy every bridge and every power station in Iran within 4 hours. Every bridge, every power plant, 4 hours. That is not a warning, that is a blueprint. And what did Iran do with this ultimatum? They rejected it flat out. Through Pakistan, which has been trying to broker a ceasefire, the Iranians sent back a list of 10 counterdemands. They want a permanent ceasefire. They want guarantees of no future aggression. And here is the real sticking point. They want a new protocol for the Strait of Hormuz that would give them the right to charge a transit fee for every tanker passing through. That is a complete non-starter for Washington, and everyone knows it. Pakistan proposed a 20-day pause, a cooling-off period, so both sides could work out a final agreement. Honestly, the chances of anything meaningful happening before Tuesday's deadline are somewhere between slim and none. And what happens then? 3 scenarios, and none of them are good. Extend the deadline and lose credibility. Back down and lose even more, or strike and risk collapsing not just a regional economy, but the global one. And you know what happened next? Britain broke ranks. The Prime Minister imposed restrictions on American military bases on British soil. Those bases can only be used for strikes on military targets, hitting civilian infrastructure, bridges, power plants, the exact things the administration just threatened. That is off the table as far as London is concerned. This is not a minor diplomatic footnote. This is a core ally saying, we are not going along with this part of the plan. Without European bases, the ability to project force in the region is significantly weakened. Let me explain why this affects every single one of you. While all of this is happening, the administration quietly submitted a request for a record defense budget, $1.5 trillion. To put that in perspective, that is roughly the entire gross domestic product of a mid-sized European country. And where is the money coming from? Infrastructure cuts, education cuts, the things that actually build a functioning society at home are being sacrificed to fund operations abroad that, as we have just seen, might not even have the command structure to execute properly. Now, if you are finding this useful, take a moment to drop a comment below. Tell me what you think about this situation. The algorithm loves engagement, and every comment, every like genuinely helps more people find this channel. We are a small independent operation, and your support makes all the difference. Meanwhile, Wall Street had a peculiar day. Markets actually closed higher. You heard that right. The administration threatens to flatten an entire country's infrastructure overnight, and investors decided it was a buying opportunity. The logic, if you can call it that, is that investors are convinced the conflict is about to end. Energy stocks are under close watch as oil prices climbed for a third consecutive day. The broader market has been on a rough ride, with the first quarter marking the worst performance for the main index since 2 years ago. But the market is behaving like that student who believes if they squeeze their eyes shut hard enough, the exam will disappear on its own. Earnings revisions are actually trending upward, yet the market keeps drifting down. The disconnect between fundamentals and headlines has never been wider. If oil stabilizes somewhere in the $90 to $100 per barrel range, investors seem ready to live with that. But that is a very big if, considering someone just threatened to bomb every bridge in a country that borders the strait through which a fifth of the world's oil passes. And this is where it gets really interesting. On the security front, it came out that bodyguards for a prominent tech executive were given access to government service while bypassing standard background checks and security protocols. On the other side of the aisle, 2 senators proposed a major package of tax relief for lower-income families, which immediately drew criticism from the progressive wing of their own party. And in a somewhat ironic twist, the administration publicly criticized the Supreme Court for not supporting its position on limiting birthright citizenship, even though several of the skeptical justices were appointed by the current president himself. And now, the story I told you to stick around for. The head of the country's largest bank, who has been running that institution for 2 decades, just released his annual letter to shareholders. And the message was blunt. This conflict is creating the conditions for a prolonged oil and commodity price shock. Global supply chains are being restructured, inflation is going to be persistent, and interest rates, listen carefully, are going to stay higher than what the market currently expects. He listed the geopolitical risks in plain language: the war in Ukraine, the expanding conflict across the Middle East, growing tensions with China. He called nuclear proliferation the single greatest danger posed by the current situation, and markets have already gotten the memo, practically ruling out any interest rate cuts this year. You know what the most interesting part is? He essentially told investors what they had been suspecting but desperately hoping not to hear. The era of cheap energy and cheap money is over, not paused, not on hold. Over. And everything that follows, from mortgage rates to grocery prices to the cost of running a business, flows directly from that reality. The question is not whether this changes things. It already has. The question is how long it takes for everyone else to stop pretending otherwise. Every single video on this channel takes real work. Research, fact-checking, making sure what I tell you is not just noise, but signal. If this episode helped you see something you might have missed, hit that like button. It takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm to show this to more people who need to hear it. Subscribe if you have not already, so you do not miss what comes next. because trust me, the next few weeks are going to be intense. If you want to go further and directly support what we are building here, the Super Thanks button is right below, or consider becoming a channel sponsor. This is not a corporation. This is one team doing independent journalism, and your support is what keeps it honest and keeps it going. Drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Argue with me if you want. I read every single one. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching to the end. I will see you in the next one.